Okay, so recently there's been talk about sending federal soldiers or whatever to Chicago, and in the media, I'd say maybe the last few months or last few years, there's been a lot of talk about how much crime there is in Chicago and so on and so forth. Now, the truth is, if you actually look at the actual statistics in terms of violent crime, in terms of homicide, okay, murder and non-negligent manslaughter. If you look at those actual statistics, Chicago is not the most dangerous city in the United States in terms of murder, in terms of homicide. And so I think the crime rate the crime rate in Chicago has been overhyped in the media. Not to say there isn't. I'm sure in Chicago, certain neighborhoods are very violent, and I'm sure you could read about the headlines of people getting shot, a lot of young people getting shot. Sometimes you have children getting hit by stray bullets. So there's a problem in some neighborhoods in Chicago, and I think the crime rate in Chicago has actually risen. Whereas, Chicago is probably the third. I think that Chicago is the third biggest city in the United States after New York and Los Angeles, right? And if you look at in general, the crime rates in New York have gone down significantly in the last, let's say, 40, 50 years. Since in the 1970s, New York had a reputation of being a very dangerous city, and then you look at New York today, and it has a reputation of being a lot safer than it used to be. And same goes for, I think, Washington D.C. The crime rate has dropped, and I believe in Los Angeles the crime rate has dropped as well. But if you look at Chicago, the crime rate hasn't dropped as significantly. It may have dropped, but it hasn't dropped the way it dropped in New York City. And in the last few years, I believe the crime rate or the homicide rate may have risen. Now, see, first of all, I also want to say that the only type of crime rate that I believe is valid is homicide, and the reason I say that is because other crimes are not necessarily reported all the time. Okay, so just to give an example, if you have assaults, okay, just a violent assault, like a person fight, someone getting punched or something like that. Not everybody reports every crime. So you have two men getting in a fight, it doesn't get reported, nobody reports it. Then in some cases you have crime and the police do not bother to record the crime. So someone could call the police and say, something got stolen from me, and the police will be like, fuck you. They won't even report the thing. They don't even bother to report it, or to record it. And then if you look at drugs, well, you could have police in one town have a have a campaign against drugs. Let's say police go into a ghetto neighborhood and they start searching every single young black man that they see. They start searching them, and then if somebody's carrying drugs, they're likely to find them. But then let's say you have a rich neighborhood and the police don't search anybody. They never search anyone. They're not going to find any drugs. So the drug rate in the ghetto neighborhood, where the police are searching everybody all the time, searching for drugs all the time, it looks like that neighborhood has a high rate of drug crime. But that's only because the police are aggressively pursuing drugs, or aggressively searching for drugs, so they find a lot of drugs. And then in the other area where they're not searching everyone for drugs, it may have the same rate of drug use. It may have just as many drugs as the other area, but they're not finding it. It could even have more drugs than the other area. So, it's kind of another. So, actually, there was some type of study, I think, about comparing drug dealers from poor ghetto neighborhoods to drug dealers, say a middle-class white drug dealer to a poor black ghetto drug dealer. And they're saying that these guys, the middle class, the white drug dealer, and the poor black drug dealer and the middle class white drug dealer, both are selling drugs for the same reason. Basically, they want to get some money, they want more money, they want to have money to spend on luxuries, they want to go to the club and pop bottles, or buy some nice shoes, or buy some nice clothes, or get a nice car, or whatever. They want to make that fast money, and so on. But they're saying, the study said that the major difference between the poor black ghetto drug dealer and the black dealer in the ghetto neighborhood and the white dealer in the middle class area, is that the white drug dealer pretty much has no fear of police. He's not worried about police, because the police are not going after him or targeting drug dealers in his area. Whereas the black drug dealer in the ghetto area is constantly worried about cops, constantly watching out for police, because the police are always targeting drug dealers in those areas. So my point is that you're going to get a higher rate of drug charges in the areas where the police are active, right? So if police are always in a ghetto neighborhood, always looking for drugs, they're going to find drugs. But if they went to Wall Street and started kicking down doors and searching every banker or whatever, every stockbroker, they're probably going to find some drugs on them too. They'll probably find a lot of drugs on them. They might find more drugs on the wall. They might find more drugs on the Wall Street people than they find in the ghetto neighborhood. Or if they go to certain colleges, if they go to a college, especially a party college, and start searching all the students, start frisking every student that they see on campus, start kicking down doors in the fraternities and all that stuff, they'll probably find a lot of drugs too. They might find, like I said, they might find more drugs than they would find in the inner city in Detroit, or in the ghetto neighborhoods in New Orleans or wherever. But if they're not doing that, they're not going to find the drugs. So it looks like the drug rates are higher, and the number of drug crimes are higher in the ghetto neighborhoods. So anyway, so my point is basically that a lot of crimes are the statistics for them. The statistics for a lot of crimes are not reliable. The statistics for a lot of crimes are not reliable because they can be inflated, they can be overreported or underreported. Whereas homicides are much more reliable, because if someone gets shot in the middle of the street, it's very difficult for the police to not record that. That's going to get reported, and that's going to get recorded. So a homicide, unlike a lot of other crimes, a fist fight might not get reported. A rape, a robbery, drug crimes, prostitution, property crimes, they may not get recorded. But a murder, someone gets shot in the street, that is probably going to get put into the statistics, okay? So that's why I always look at homicide rates. I don't look at other crime rates. I don't, the other crime rate numbers for all these other crimes, to me, they don't really mean anything. So anyway, so I'm gonna sit. So this is a list of the most violent cities in the United States. This is based on Wikipedia. For cities in the United States with a population of 250,000 or greater. Okay, so these are rates based on cases per 100,000 people for 2014. Okay, so the most violent cities in the United States are: number one most violent, with a population of over 250,000, is St. Louis, Missouri, with a murder and non-negligent manslaughter rate of 49.9 per 100,000 people. Number two is Detroit, Michigan, with a rate of 43.5%, or 43.5 per 100,000. Number 3, New Orleans, 38.7. Number 4, Baltimore, Maryland, 33.8. Number 5 is Newark, New Jersey with 33.3. Number 6 is Buffalo, New York with 23.2. Number 7, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 22.4. Let's see. What was it? Number 7? Number 8? Number 8 is Memphis, Tennessee with 21.4. Number 9 is Atlanta, Georgia with 20.5. Number 10 is Cincinnati, Ohio, 20.2. And after that is Oakland, then Miami, then Kansas City, then Stockton, California, Cleveland, Ohio, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., Indianapolis, and then finally you get Chicago. So Chicago, let's see, its rate is 15.1 per 100,000. Its homicide rate. So it's a lot lower. It's basically like half of what it is in Newark or Baltimore. So it's not that high. Comparatively speaking, compared to a lot of these other cities that are higher. After Chicago, you have Milwaukee, Mobile, Alabama, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Jacksonville, Florida, Houston, Texas, Columbus, Ohio, Fresno, California, Jersey City, New Jersey, Dallas, Texas, Tucson, Arizona, Corpus Christi, Texas, Toledo, Ohio, Louisville metro area in Kentucky, Greensboro, North Carolina, Boston, Massachusetts, Las Vegas, Nevada, Tampa, Florida, Minneapolis, Minnesota, St. Petersburg, Florida, Phoenix, Arizona, Oklahoma City, Arizona, Omaha, Nebraska, San Antonio, Texas. Then you have Los Angeles, California, 6.7 per 100,000. So that's pretty far down the list. So Los Angeles is relatively safe in terms of homicide. After Los Angeles, you have Lexington, Kentucky, then Nashville, Tennessee, Fort Worth, Texas, Orlando, Florida, Sacramento, California, Laredo, Texas, Charlotte, Mecklenburg, North Carolina, Albuquerque, New Mexico, San Francisco, California, Santa Ana, California, Long Beach, California, with 4.9 per 100,000, Colorado, Denver, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Bakersfield, California, Colorado Springs, Colorado, Portland, Oregon, Anaheim, California, Anchorage, Alaska, New York City. New York City is only 3.9, so New York City definitely has become a relatively safe city by U.S. standards. It's way down the list. Seattle, Washington, Wichita, Kansas, Riverside, California, Virginia Beach, Virginia, St. Paul, Minnesota, Austin, Texas, Arlington, Texas, San Jose, California, Aurora, Colorado, El Paso, Texas, Mesa, Arizona, Raleigh, North Carolina, Chula Vista, California, Lincoln, Nebraska, San Diego, California, Plano, Texas, Henderson, Nevada, and Chandler, Arizona, with a rate of 0.4 per 100,000. San Diego is only 2.3 per 100,000, so that's probably, looks like San Diego is probably the safest of the major cities in the United States. Like with a population of over 1 million. I think it's over. Was it? I think with a population. So San Diego is the safest U.S. city with a population of more than 1 million. So anyway, so basically the point is that Chicago is not the most dangerous city in the U.S. So I'm not sure. Like they're hyping the danger of Chicago a lot, but it's really not. I mean, it's a lot more dangerous than the other two. Or than New York or Los Angeles, but it's not that dangerous.